In today's video, I'm going to show you how to install the Batocera software so that you can have the ultimate arcade setup. Welcome back to the Underground Arcade. My name is Bronson and I'm on a quest, a mission to build my own arcade at home and fill it with beautiful cabinets like this one here. Now, over the past few months, we've been talking a bit of software on the channel. We've been looking at different types of software. So we started with installing RetroPie on a Raspberry Pi 4 in this cabinet. I then have another cabinet running MAME. I've got another cabinet running RetroBat. And a lot of you actually said on the RetroBat video we did that I need to try Batocera. So I'm going to show you two things in today's video. The first is how we install Batocera because it is a Linux-based operating system. It doesn't work on Windows. So I'm going to show you how to install it. We have to flash the operating system and that sort of thing, but we'll get into that in a sec. The second thing I'm going to show you is how we copy ROMs onto the Batocera software so we can actually play some games on the cabinet. So that's the goal of today's video, to show you those two things. So let's go up to my office in the house and I'll first show you how we're going to install the Batocera operating system, and then we'll come back down here and play some games. To install the Batocera operating system, we need two bits of software. We need the Raspberry Pi imager first. This is the software that's going to allow us to flash the Batocera image onto our Raspberry Pi SD card. So when we put it into the SD card, the Raspberry Pi recognizes it, picks it up, loads it. So we can just go to the raspberrypi.com website for that. Click on software up the top and we have the imager there. You can just Google Raspberry Pi imager as well. So I've already downloaded that. And the second thing I need to do is download the Batocera software itself. The image we're actually going to flash onto the Raspberry Pi. So if we go to batocera.org and we come up to downloads. So up the top of the downloads page, you're going to see all the sort of popular downloads. So we've got the desktop, Steam Deck, Raspberry Pi 4, Raspberry Pi 5. If we start scrolling down, we're going to see all the different handhelds you can install this on. So lots of different handhelds, including the Steam Deck, which is pretty cool. And then the more we scroll, the more we'll see like the other Raspberry Pi boards. So right down to the Pi Zero. So just heaps and heaps of different hardware the Batocera software is, supported on. So we're going to come up to the top and we are going to go to the Raspberry Pi 4 and we're going to hit download. You can torrent this as well. There is a torrent link, a magnet link if you want to torrent it. We're just going to download it straight from the site. It is 2.1 gigabytes, so I'm going to come back once that has downloaded. So you can see in my downloads folder, we got the Batocera image.gz file in there, ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do is take the SD card out of my Raspberry Pi 4, and I'm going to plug it into a card reader on this device. And we're going to get it the right way around. No, not that way. And we are going to open up the Raspberry Pi imager. You may be familiar with the Raspberry Pi imager if you have installed like just the default Raspberry Pi OS. Pretty simple to use. What we're going to do on the left is we're going to choose our device. So we have a Raspberry Pi 4, so we're going to click Raspberry Pi 4. Next, we're going to choose our operating system. And here we've got the list of the Raspberry Pi OSs that are there. We're going to scroll right down to Use Custom. And it's going to pop up and ask us to browse for the GZ file or the IMG file that we've just downloaded. So you'll see there in my downloads folder we've got Batocera and we're going to go open. The last thing we need to do is choose the storage. So this is where we're going to flash this image to. Now, one thing I would recommend here is that you unplug all other USB drives, external hard drives, maybe the SD card out of your camera or whatever. Just unplug all those out of your computer, because if we flash the image to say the SD card in this camera, if I had it plugged in, then we would lose everything on the card. So what I do is just unplug everything, then I come to choose storage, and you'll see here I've only got one SanDisk rather, the micro SD card that goes in the Raspberry Pi, 31 gigs. We'll select that and we will hit next. Now it says, would you like to apply any OS customization settings? At this stage, you're just going to go no. And then it's going to say, are we sure we want to continue? Are we sure we've picked the right SD card? And we will say, yes, we have. Now you'll see down the bottom it says that it's preparing to write. So it's going to open the drive, check that it can write to it, and then it's going to go through the process of writing the Batocera image to that SD card. So that's pretty much it. You have now installed Batocera on your Raspberry Pi 4. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug it in up here before I take it down to the arcade, and I'm going to show you how to copy ROMs over. There are loads of different ways to copy ROMs across to Batocera. The easiest way I find is to plug in your Raspberry Pi 4, just plug it into power and connect it to the network. So I'm going to physically plug this in here, but you could plug this into a monitor and connect it to your Wi-Fi basically through the menu. And what we're going to do on my computer here is we're going to come down to the network button, and we're going to see that there is a computer on my network now called Batocera. So if I go into that, I'm going to see a share folder there, and if I go into share, I'll see a whole bunch of subfolders. So there's basically two sides to the Batocera install. There's the boot partition and there is the share partition, which is like the user profile. And you'll see in here we've got things like the music, recordings. We can actually screen record on Batocera, which is pretty cool if we're doing YouTube videos or whatever. Our ROMs, our saves, our screenshots that we can take with the system, all that's accessible over the network. If we go into the ROMs folder, you will see every emulator that is supported under this ROMs folder. So say if we went to M, for example, we will see the MAME, you'll see Master System, you'll see Mega Drive down here. And basically what we want to do is we want to download ROMs for a specific emulation and then copy them across to the appropriate folder. And then when we reboot Batocera, it's going to pick up those ROMs. So on my left hand side here under the downloads folder, you can see I've downloaded a bunch of MAME ROMs. So I've got 1941, Bobble Bobble, Double Dragon, Metal Slug, just some cool ROMs just to get us going. And so what I'll do on the right hand side here is I'll come into the ROMs folder, we'll go down to MAME and we'll go into the MAME folder. And it is as simple as us grabbing those zipped ROMs, we don't have to unzip them, and just copying them across. They're obviously copying across the network now, so depending on what sort of emulation you're doing, like if you're doing PlayStation, obviously the files are going to be a lot bigger. MAME and those old arcade ROMs are pretty small, like less than 100 meg, 150 megabytes, so they're going to copy pretty quick. Obviously if you're doing gigabytes, it's going to take a bit longer. We're going to copy this across, and then when we take this box down and plug it into our arcade, it's going to automatically detect those games and it's going to load them up for us. All right, we'll plug it all in the back here. We'll power that up. We'll turn you on, and hopefully saw a quick flash of Batocera there. There we go. So you'll see it'll load in straight away. We've got music playing and we've got MAME showing here with 13 games. Well, there you have it. In about 20 minutes, we now have Batocera running in our arcade cabinet with a bunch of ROMs on it. Now, there are some other things obviously we've done to this arcade, like put a computer monitor in it, bezel, wire in a control panel, USB encoders for all the joysticks, all that good stuff. And there are videos on my channel if you'd like to go and look at how I did that. You can go and have a look at those. But you don't really need to touch Batocera much out of the box. When you first power it up, you get some pretty neat menus. And basically what happens with this system, it runs Emulation Station, and the more ROMs you add, the more emulators you see appear on screen. So by default out of the box you see a few because there are actually some free games that are included with Batocera. There's a game on the Mega Drive, Commodore 64 surprisingly, Nintendo. And if we went to MAME, we'll see that we've got all our games there, 13 games installed for MAME. So as you add more, those menus just build out, but the menus look really neat just out of the box. They're really crisp, clean. You get beautiful bezels around games that aren't widescreen. There's not heaps you need to touch, but there is lots you can touch if you want to go down the rabbit hole of arcades and all the settings and all the weird and wonderful things you can do. Now, if you are stuck or you have any questions, please ask away in the comments and I will reply to you there. We can have a discussion there. If you want to look at other software we've installed on this channel, like I said before, Retro Pi on the Raspberry Pi, that's quite interesting. Retro Bat I've been running on another arcade and I've been loving that. So there's other videos on the channel. If you want to hit subscribe, come along on the adventure. You can do that for free. You can also leave a comment for free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me out. So yeah, we've got plenty of cool videos coming up. We're going to be building a lot more cabinets like this in the future. We're going to be diving into software. We're going to do some comparisons of the various software. I've got a claw machine actually being delivered. It's I bought a second-hand claw machine from an arcade that was selling a whole lot of arcade machines. So that's coming. So I'm going to be fixing a claw machine in a coming video. So all sorts of things as I kind of build out this arcade in this shed. So if any of that interests you, come along for the adventure and I'll see you in the next video.